wanted this video to be a love letter to the trees. Humans are so young on this earth, and the trees have been here for far longer than me, and so they are my greatest teachers. Alongside the soil, the birds, the sea, the wind in my hair, and the grass beneath my feet, the fire that cracks my heart open and allows me to see all the love there is. So thank you, trees, for inspiring me to live constantly in awe and in love, to create, to slow down, and for reminding me to breathe more deeply, and forever for teaching me how to truly listen. Hello love, and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to come on here and talk to you a little bit about my connection to nature, what the trees have taught me about life and about healing and the sense of belonging and just existing on this earth, because in the end this is what we all are. I'll share some of my favorite, both gentle and really mind-opening quotes from the book The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wohlleben, and we'll end the video with some really lovely journal prompts. I have absolutely been loving these that I made for you and that you can bring with you outside, maybe under a tree. Sit and journal for a while and really reflect on the teachings of nature and your connection with this earth. First, I also just want to invite you to take a deep breath and to step into this space with kindness towards yourself and towards nature. Also, hi, I'm Astrid, a content creator from Copenhagen, sharing everything about slow, sustainable, and cyclical living. So if you are into these things and if you end up falling in love with this video, I hope that you want to stay tuned and subscribe to my channel, or maybe even come say hello over on Instagram. Either way, I'm so happy to have you here, and let's dive into it. I feel like I want to start out by reading you a quote that is very much in the beginning of the book about how trees connect with each other through the root systems. When I found out about this a few years ago, it really changed my perspective on other beings and on nature, and really just confirmed to me what I feel is so intuitively true, which is that the trees are holding so much more wisdom than we are aware of. Why are trees such social beings? Why do they share food with their own species and sometimes even go so far as to nourish their competitors? The reasons are the same as for human communities. There are advantages to working together. A tree is not a forest. On its own, a tree cannot establish a consistent local climate. It is at the mercy of wind and weather. But together, many trees create an ecosystem that moderates extremes of heat and cold, stores a great deal of water, and generates a great deal of humidity. And in this protected environment, trees can live to be very old. To get to this point, the community must remain intact no matter what. If every tree were looking out only for itself, then quite a few of them would never reach old age. Regular fatalities would result in many large gaps in the tree canopy, which would make it easier for storms to get inside the forest and uproot the trees. The heat of the summer would reach the forest floor and dry it out. Every tree would suffer. Every tree, therefore, is valuable to the community and worth keeping around for as long as possible. Can we just talk about how much we humans can learn from this way of being? We live in a culture that glorifies the ego and self-sufficiency and independence. But the trees in this case really remind us that it is safe to depend on others, it is safe to ask for help, and in the end it's really necessary. In order to thrive, we need to help each other out, and we need to create communities, to lean on each other, to ask for support. I think so many of us are scared of, because we have this sense that we need to prove something to ourselves and to others, that we can exist and do everything completely on our own. I think especially as women, this can kind of be a curse, that we feel like we have this thing to prove others, but in the end, what do we really have to prove? Why don't we want to create something that's much bigger than us and realize that we're just a small part of a huge community? At least for me, this feeling just brings like such a beautiful sense of peace within, and it also just really removes the pressure of having to live in a certain way and do everything on my own when I can ask for help because I'm allowed to do so. And also it's just so cool. There's so much science now that actually proves the fact that trees are sharing their resources. They're even communicating with each other, not only through their roots but also through like sound waves, which is exactly the way that we communicate too. So I just think there's so much more to it than we think. If one tree senses danger, it can actually communicate this to another tree. Trees are so cool. Something else that I feel the trees are such perfect reminders of is the fact that slow growth can sometimes be the best and healthiest way of growing. Sometimes when I think of all of the visions and the dreams that I have in this life, I get this feeling of being a bit behind, feel a bit stressed out about not having achieved certain things at a certain age. But then I just remind myself that in nature, there's this sense of everything just happening truly in its own time. And this honestly so beautifully proves the fact that slowness is not a weakness. Slowness can be really strong and really life-changing in so many ways. It has been for me. I would love to hear your reflections on this as well in the comments. How does it affect your life when you allow yourself to slow down and trust that everything will happen in its own divine time? We don't have to push through growth when we are in winter. We're allowed to go into hibernation and just fully rest and trust in the fact that we are going to bloom again. Spring will be back. Everything is seasonal, everything is circular. And really stepping into this way of living has given me such a deep sense of trust within, trust in myself and my surroundings, my relationships and my dreams and everything that I'm doing and being surrounded by in this life. And it's actually really cool because there is this place in the book that speaks about how the slower the growth is, the better. Young trees are so keen on growing quickly that it would be no problem at all for them to grow 18 inches taller per season. Unfortunately for them, their own mothers do not approve of rapid growth. They shade their offspring with their enormous crowns, and the crowns of all the mature trees close up to form a thick canopy over the forest floor. This canopy lets only 3% of available sunlight reach the ground, and therefore the children's leaves. So actually, the mother trees are making sure that their children trees aren't growing too fast. Like, how cool is that? I think we can learn so much from that. I think that saying just honestly speaks for its own. Scientists have determined that slow growth when the tree is young is a prerequisite if a tree is to live to a ripe old age. As people, we easily lose sight of what is truly old for a tree, because modern forestry targets a maximum age of 80 to 120 years before plantation trees are cut down and turned into cash. Under natural conditions, trees that age are no thicker than a pencil and no taller than a person. Thanks to slow growth, their inner woody cells are tiny and contain almost no air. That makes the trees flexible and resistant to breaking in storms. And he also mentioned that it makes them resistant to fungi. It is the same for us in so many ways. I can think of a personal example. Like when I made the decision to quit my education, I used to be a woodworker, actually. Quite funny now that I'm sitting here and speaking about trees. I know a lot about wood and a lot about trees in different ways, and this book is giving me like another perspective, which I love. But yes, that's what I used to do, and honestly it is something that I'm really passionate about. I'm really proud to have this craft, but also at the same time it wasn't really a field that I could see myself working in the long run. So many things had to happen in order for me to fully realize that it was time for me to step out of it. And fast forward, I quit the education for many different reasons. A lot of stuff happened. I am at home, and as soon as I give myself a true pause to actually sit down and come back to myself, I realize how badly I've been doing, but without knowing it. And in that situation, I just knew that I would not go anywhere if I were to rush myself through this. I knew that I had to slow down. I knew that I had to allow everything to happen truly in its own time. And look where I am now, in my creative flow, talking to you, just being fully myself. And I think I've really come back to myself in a deeper way than ever before. And this is such a beautiful example that slowing down can be so necessary. The last quote from the book that I want to share with you is about living in reciprocity. Every species wants to survive, and each takes from the others what it needs. All are basically ruthless, and the only reason everything doesn't collapse is because there are safeguards against those who demand more than their due. And one final limitation is an organism's own genetics. An organism that is too greedy and takes too much without giving anything in return destroys what it needs for life and dies out. Most species, therefore, have developed innate behaviors to protect the forest from overexploitation. When we give back to the earth, when we give back to our communities and to our own bodies, when we live in reciprocity with all there is, I think the world changes. I love seeing, especially on social media, I'm following so many inspiring women who are speaking more and more about this. We need to let go of consumerism as we know it, and we need to take responsibility for ourselves and live in reciprocity with all there is. When we tend to the earth and we tend to each other and to ourselves, this is just when everything starts growing and blooming. And I also feel like this speaks back to the sense of belonging. I feel such a strong sense of belonging to this earth when I cultivate a garden, when I grow my own vegetables, or when I go out in nature and search for herbs and flowers and learn about their medicinal purposes, when I really remind myself to be on this earth as a student, to be constantly in awe and constantly learning from my surroundings. Once again, we are so much younger than the trees and than so many species on this earth. We have so much to learn, and as soon as we start opening our eyes to this beautiful world there is around us, we receive so much. Like, there is so much love and so many teachings to receive, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. All we have to do is open ourselves and receive. I'm sitting here in the most magical spot and I feel so grounded. I'm sitting in the grass and I'm looking up at this beautiful tree. I am in my local park. I'm not even out in wild nature or out in the forest. Ideally, I would love to spend more time out in wild nature, but I think just searching for these little pockets of calm can create just as much a sense of belonging to the earth. Just to once again say that it doesn't have to be that complicated. The trees have taught me that slowness is sacred and that finding a sense of belonging to my surroundings is healing. That stillness can carry so much when I open my senses fully and allow myself to surrender to this sense of belonging and living more slowly and seasonally. I hope you take the time this week to reconnect with the earth. Maybe sit under a tree, bring your journal on a walk, or dance bare feet in the rain. To breathe more deeply and let your breath anchor you in the present. To listen with all of your senses and to remember how important your place is in this world. I love you for all that you are, and I am so grateful that you tuned in with me to be a part of this love letter. If this video resonated with you, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and for you to like and subscribe, maybe even share this video with a friend of yours. I cannot wait to see you in the next video.